Welcome to Common Man Cocktails. I'm your host, Derrick Schommer. Today we're going to talk about recipe books. Every recipe book that you may need to grow yourself in the craft, either for fun, for education, or for a career. I'm going to go from the top down in my pile over here. This is a Savoy cocktail book. This is an ancient book, 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s. 1930 was the original edition. This is not the original edition. It's a reprint. I tag things when I gotta get better tags and stickies, but this book, while the recipes might be fairly ancient, they use things like wine glasses for measures. If you're into trying to find the authenticity behind recipes, I get submissions all the time, and I'm looking to figure out if it's authentic. The internet actually doesn't always buy you the right results. Hard books, ebooks that are built for the Kindle that represent these books are really the best route right now. This is definitely the first book you should have when you start thinking crafty and build a foundation for the history of cocktails. It might not be the first book you start with, but it should be. It's kind of like the Bible. You should always have one in the drawer when you're at a hotel. Not very religious. The Joy of Mixology by Gary Regan. He's the guy that does orange bitters. This book, what I've noticed is it's a little bit heavy on some of the alcohol pours and whatnot, but what this book does is it gives you a lot of the base recipes that you should probably know, especially if you're a bartender or if you're a big-time enthusiast, but it also has sections on bartending and on how to serve the drinks and stuff like that, so it's definitely cool. The next one I would suggest, this goes kind of into the posterity, the foundation is The Joy of Mixology by Jerry Thomas, a very well-known bartender from, this is I believe 1800s, 1862. This book is even more ancient than the Savoy cocktail book. You'll see Savoy's very often referenced by craft bartenders, by people who've built recipes, founded and inspired on other recipes. Jerry Thomas probably was the one who inspired everybody. And again, this book has some funny sizes to it. This is a reprint of another book, so you could find tons of different reprints of this. This one's a little bit more expensive because it's got the gold leaf corners and stuff like that. You don't have to get crazy. Again, I use this mainly as a reference, especially when talking about historical things, cognac and a lot of our early recipes. If you wanted to see some early recipes before they got modified, books like this will get you there. The biggest use for an everyday cocktail book is The Craft of the Cocktail by Dale Degroff. This is the book, and Dale has a couple books. This is the one I've purchased, and I usually go back to when there's a recipe conflict in my brain, like the Martinez. What was the way I created that? This is the book that's going to get you a lot of that information. It's fairly easy to find stuff in here. It's alphabetical order, categorized by spirit and stuff like that. Bloody Marys. If you're looking for every Bloody Mary, you'll find a lot of those in here. Let's go down the path of Tiki and information and history. I loved history as a kid. I never figured out how you can make that a career path that would ever make you any money, but it was my favorite subject I never want to do for a living. These books here are the history of Tiki in a book. Multiple varieties of history. Some of it will be repeated throughout different books. Some has this different twist. Some has been updated. So let's start with this. This is Beach Bum Berry Remixed. I use this one for Tiki Week. It's got tons of notes. You could tell which ones I use the most because they have notes in them. Cross-references, Mai Tai explanations, all the zombie cocktails you're ever going to need. Re-updated because he put out 3 different books. This is an updated version of all those books. Oh, by the way, this is Jeff Ferry, if you didn't know. It's definitely a book that I highly suggest you get. There's history in there for specific cocktails that have history. There's history about how they don't have history if they didn't. He has his own recipes in there as well, so it's a culmination of Tiki. Sippin' Safari is another great book. Again, this is from Barry, and I would suggest getting this one when you get that one. Buy them both at the same time. Just cover everything. There's definitely more words and history within Barry's books. There tends to be lots of pages of explanation, photos of original Tiki bars, some of the original Tiki pioneers. You'll find them in these books. It's not just a culmination of, here's all the recipes. It's recipes plus information so you can sound intelligent while you're making this stuff. Potions of the Caribbean. This is a book, or Caribbean, by Barry that I suggest. This is the one that actually kind of got me started into the Tiki realm a little bit more. This goes back to the Caribbean history, all the way back to like conflicts and wars and the growth from Havana and up through the daiquiri, like up into the blended drinks, to where the destruction of pretty much the Great Caribbean cocktails came in. Definitely, Barry is very passionate about this. This book is really for those that want history more than recipes. There are recipes within the book, usually 1 to 2 per chapter, that kind of accent what the chapter was about. Some of them which you'll never be able to make, other because there's just the ingredients are so archaic. But some of them aren't really that good, but they give you a sense of what they had during those periods. So if you want to drink history, this is the book that you want to get. Recently released Smuggler's Cove, and I purchased every one of these books. I don't know if I bought all Warrens, but so I'm not trying to shill you here. This is just what I own that I use. I have other recipe books over here that I just stack up. Smuggler's Cove, I haven't got all the way through this. This is a huge tome. Lots of detail on history. There's a whole section, if you're big into Smuggler's Cove, of the bar, the creation, and recipes along the way through the chapters. Cross-reference in the back to find tiki recipes. This book, unlike Jeff Barry, this book goes through tiki from the eyes of Martin Kate, which means some of them are different than the originals, and he'll tell you this is based on this is based on something from, Sippin' Safari. This, basically, Jeff does this research. Martin takes that research and builds his own brand around it and says, this is what we do because we think it tastes better or fits the palate of today's society more than just the historically accurate drink. So either way, it's pretty neat. Having this to be able to riff off of and create some of the recipes. It also has the syrups in here for like the orgeats and the grenadine hibiscus and different things like that. And a great section on rums, rum aging, rum styles, rum history. I used some of this as a reference when I did my rum aging styles video. If you're into bitters, here's some bitters books. I started with this one. This is Bitters. This is literally what it's called. It's the spirited history of classic cure-alls. Brad Thomas Parsons put this book out. This is a good book if you want a little bit of the history of bitters and why they exist and how they existed. And the back of the book is all recipes. And they can get pretty complicated. You have to have a pretty good amount of bitters product to work from this. But it gives you, if anything, I always recommend on Reddit, I moderate the bitters subreddit, is I recommend this book to get you started as a foundation. Then I learned about a couple other books. So this book I've been using most, it's got stickies all over it, for creating my own bitters. Because it's easy, it applies it with a couple recipes. You can get, it's not as comprehensive, but it's very narrow focused and really gives you just what you need, and then some cocktails once you've created the bitters that you can use with your new creations to make cocktails out of the stuff you've made, which is pretty awesome. And it's not too intimidating in size. That is what my base reference for all bitters. If you're a bitters enthusiast and you're looking for the next greatest bitters, and you're like, I'm on Awesome Drinks and I find all these great bitters, awesomedrinks.com, by the way, I own it, and I want to know what I should buy and what does this taste like, what does that taste like. The Field Guide to Bitters and Amari from Mark Bitterman, not actually any relation to the brand Bittermans. This covers tons of different cross-references of, what would it suggest for bitters based on the family of cocktails, the cross-reference of every brand out there, even some of the small brands with their taste profiles, where they're from, the aromatics, the bitters, and the sweet comparisons and rankings, and tasting notes. Like, this is what you need if you're trying to create bitters, or not necessarily create your own, but take bitters and build cocktails with different types of bitters. And bitters are expensive, and you want to be able to invest in specific flavor profiles. That's the book you want for that. If you're into whiskey, Warren Barbaro has a whiskey book. This is Warren Barbaro's whiskey book, and even the Apothecary Cocktails book, very much focused on the bartender. So if you're tending bar and you're trying to come up with some crazy wild drinks, and you have a bigger back bar at work than you do at home, you'll find that Warren's books are very well focused towards that. And I've asked Warren when he was on the show who he designed them for. So it's really the bartender direction. Of course, his latest book is Cannabis Cocktails. While I can't necessarily always apply what's in here, I bought it based on the fact that it's a great talking piece. And I think it's going to, where we are in history today with marijuana and cannabis and moving forward, I think this is going to be one of the books that has a pivotal movement in that. The last two books, which I think everybody who watches the show should purchase, especially if you're creating cocktails, this is the Flavor Bible. Curtis introduced this to me. The Flavor Bible is just about flavor pairings. There's nothing to do with alcohol in here. It's flavor, flavor, flavor. It's really a cookbook for cooks, but it works for cocktails as well. So if you're like, I want to create a drink with elderflower, what do I pair it with? Does it work with lemon or lime? Is one stronger than the other? What about if I want to use this herb? Where does mint fit? This book pairs everything together, and if it doesn't, there's a couple websites online that do, because there are a few things missing from this book, unfortunately, that do only seem to exist as a pairing online, but whatever. So get yourself the Flavor Bible if you want to design recipes. If you've ever been to homecocktailmenu.com, the website that we run with ebooks of recipes that my wife has designed, you'll find that she uses this probably 95% of the time when creating her drinks. So much so it's sticky and a mess. The last book I would suggest is Liquid Intelligence. I peeled off the paper cover because it drives me crazy. This is from Dave Arnold. This is a great book if you're getting into cocktails and you're really more focused on the science. There's craft and there's science, and there is a place where they meet together. You meet together in this book. So if you want to know how the best way to stir a cocktail, how ice works in a cocktail, how to milk wash, how to clarify lime, everything from the chemical standpoint, thickening agents, stuff like that, and just how to generally craft cocktails, that big book will get you there. And then lastly, get yourself what we like to call the banger book. Again, Curtis introduced me to this. It's not like it's a wild thing, but this is a good reference. This is mine. It doesn't actually have any cocktails in it yet. Right now, what I do in the back is all my simple syrups, spice syrups, Dawn spices, and homemade syrups that I make. I start at the back. And then all the cocktail recipes I really create or enjoy, I put in the front. And therefore, if you have this, just carry it around with you. You can always create recipes for friends that you know you're going to like and they're going to like, because you could take your notes. That's how Curtis does his recipes. That's how Jennifer was doing hers. And I know other people who are kind of following that trend now. So create your own little recipe book of the highlights from all these books into your own so that you can bring it, especially if you go to the bar. So that, my friends, those are the suggestions. All these books will be linked below, so you can take a look on Amazon. I'm going to link them all there, and have fun. Craft some stuff. We're teaching you how to drink. So there's a few reasons this is bad. If you have toxins in your system and your body's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this to me. And you're like, well, have some more, it makes you feel better. And you're like, oh! If you continually chase this little alcohol problem, you create your own alcohol problem. Sweat it out.